ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवं च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितं च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्तिवेदांता स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। मुखम करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंगायते गिरिं यत्कृपा तमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरम्। Okay, last section of 9 chapter. Uh, I am repeating 3 verses for the sake of completeness. Glories of bhakti. Um, mm, if one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. Uh, Anything one offers to Krishna with love, Krishna accepts. There is a small story where Krishna was invited by Duryodhan for a lunch because Duryodhan wanted to impress Krishna so that Krishna was the king of Dwarka. Mahabharat war was about to happen, so Krishna came to Hastinapur, and Duryodhan wanted Krishna's army to fight from Krishna's side. So he had an ulterior motive uh, to impress Krishna so that he can win the Mahabharat war. His intention was material desire, and he invited Krishna for lunch. Um, and Krishna came to Hastinapur, but he did not go to the home of Duryodhan. In fact, he walked right. He passed the house right in front, and he did not go inside. Instead, he went to the home of Vidur, and Vidur was not expecting Krishna. But because Vidura has love for Krishna, Vidura was overwhelmed to see Krishna coming to his home to such an extent that uh, he had tears of love in his eyes. He was like, clean, clean, clean a mat to sit, bring some water. So he was kind of so much in anxiety how to serve Krishna because he had such love for Krishna, and that was very pleasing to Krishna. And any guest come, you offer something to eat. So Vidura only had bananas in his home. So he took the bananas, he peeled it, he threw the banana away and gave the peel to Krishna because he was so much overwhelmed by love that his mind intelligence stopped working. And instead of giving the banana to Krishna, he threw the banana and gave the peel to Krishna. But because he gave to Krishna with so much love, Krishna happily accepted it. And Krishna ate the peel, and Krishna was so much happy with Vidura just after eating the rejected peel given by Vidura. So this is the nature of love, and this is the nature of Krishna. Krishna, all he is looking for is anything we do him, with the mood, oh, I with gratitude. When we have gratitude in our heart, gratitude means love. It's difficult to define what is love, but if we do anything for Krishna and then we have gratitude, oh, I got a chance to do this for Krishna, and Krishna is purchased by that gratitude. My spiritual master says gratitude in devotional service is same as love for Krishna. Gratitude for reading Gita, for Nam Sankirtan, for rendering any service. One mood of rendering any form of devotional service, oh, I have to do it. And another mood is, I'm so fortunate that I got a chance to do this. And it is that bhav, that mood with which you want to serve Krishna. Oh, I got a chance to cook for Krishna. I want to cook something nice for Krishna, but I don't know cooking. Well, I will search on YouTube and I will still uh, cook something nice for Krishna. And Krishna is pleased by that mood. Is the cooking came out good or not good? For Krishna, it doesn't matter. For us, it matters because we see everything um, externally. Just like um, I noticed, like a spouse gave a flower bouquet to the husband, and the husband mood was, why did you waste so much money on this flower bouquet? It cost $20. We could have got something else. The flower bouquet will wither in 3 days and it's useless, and $20 is waste. What will I do with this flower bouquet? I will just keep it on the side. Why you wasted the money? And because we are so much conditioned to see everything from material perspective, more more than the mood, we are um, kind of intellectually oriented, but Krishna is love oriented. You give a flower to Krishna just sees he offered a flower. Krishna does not see anything else. He offered me something to eat out of love. Even if we cook the best feast, and we are the greatest of the greatest cooks, but we are cooking with other thoughts other than I'm cooking for Krishna, or I'm cooking with gratitude for Krishna, it's not pleasing to Krishna. But you cook just some simple khichdi, but then you cook, oh, I got a chance to feed Krishna, I got a chance to serve Krishna, and Krishna comes running behind you and he will ask you, where is my khichdi? It's cooking, and Krishna will wait also. So that is Krishna's mood. Anything you offer him with love and devotion, he is eager to accept it. um, Whatever you do, I'm just repeating past three slides for the sake of continuity, and then I would request devotees to read. Whatever you do it for the pleasure of Krishna. Whatever you eat, you try to cook for Krishna. Anyways, we are cooking. Krishna consciousness is all about changing the consciousness. Just like if we have kids at home, either we are cooking for ourselves, or we are cooking for spouse, or we are cooking for kids. So whatever we cook, anyways, um, um, it will be consumed by us only. The nature of Krishna is, sometimes people say that how does Krishna eat? They don't have faith. Um, um, and they say, I offered this food to Krishna, and the food is as it is. Not even a grain is missing. So what is the proof that Krishna ate? So because our tendency is to see everything from material perspective, we cannot see divinity. We cannot see, it requires divinity within ourselves to be able to see divinity outside. It is described in Brahma Samhita. Angani yasya sakalendriya vritti panti pasyanti panti kalayanti chiranjaganti ananda chinmaya sadujjvala vigrahasya govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Angani yasya sakalendriya vritti panti. It describes that all the senses, sakalendriya, of Krishna can perform all the activities. Like we we can, in a conditioned body, material body, we can taste through mouth and see through eyes, but we cannot see through mouth and taste through eyes. Our senses can perform only specific function, but Krishna's senses are not like that. Krishna's senses is that he can perform all the functions through all the senses. He can uh, taste just by looking at it, just by sight. Another thing is Krishna does not uh, eat the food stuff we offer, but Krishna eat the love with which the food stuff is offered. Krishna is described as Bhavagrahi Janardana. He takes the bhav. Just like we saw the case of Duryodhan, he prepared a huge feast, but because he didn't had, Krishna didn't accept it. So we may offer to Krishna, but if it is not cooked with little gratitude, that oh, I'm cooking for Krishna. Now, to become Krishna conscious, Srila Prabhupada said, is very, very easy. Why? All it is required is a training to change our consciousness. Srila Prabhupada said, you don't have to do anything new to advance in spiritual life. You just have to do it for Krishna. That's why Krishna says, whatever you do it as an offering to me. Now, whatever you do means everything, but everything should be done keeping Krishna in the center. Like it's just a matter of change of consciousness, but sometimes it takes years. It's easy to speak, easy to understand, difficult to apply, but I will speak it anyhow and then see how much we can practice. um, just like in the temple, devotees wash pots, in the home people wash pots. In the temple we clean the temple hall, in the home we clean the home. In the temple we go out and buy groceries, in the home people go out and buy groceries. So if you see the physical activities point of view, there is no difference between the home and temple. um, 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 but in the temple, when somebody cleans the floor, like today I was sweeping and mopping our upstairs floor of the temple, then it is like, okay, I'm, um, well, it's Krishna's service, so I should do it. It's Krishna's service. It's just a matter of now in temple, it is easier to think it is Krishna's service because Krishna is the center and we all know about it and we know there is an altar. uh, Same now, it's all a matter of consciousness. If we can think, well, there is a small altar and Krishna says, um, um, Sarva Loka Maheshwara, I am the proprietor of everything. So if Krishna is proprietor of everything, then Krishna is the proprietor of this home also. Even though he is present in the form of a picture, it's just a matter of my faith that this is Krishna and this home belongs to Krishna. Then, and if I'm buying the groceries for Krishna, I'm cooking for Krishna, I'm cleaning because this is like a temple hall. Now, easy said than done because of our conditioning, because we are conditioned to think this is my home. Um, uh, why to do all these things? I will rather go to the temple and serve. So devotional service is not limited to the temple only, but because in the beginning stages it is very helpful to come to temple and render service, because it is much easier to see Krishna there than to be able to see Krishna at home. But eventually, if we want to be Krishna conscious all the time, then we want to train ourselves to develop that consciousness, that whatever I'm doing it for Krishna. So many times people find it burdensome to clean the home, to cook in the home, and but they are very enthusiastic to do the same things in the temple. That's just because of we are not able to see Krishna, and then we are running after how to see Krishna, and do some Krishna conscious activity. Um, but Krishna is everywhere. I mean, there is a definitely we don't want to discourage devotees to come and serve in the temple. That is supremely beneficial, but we should not limit our Krishna consciousness just to that concept, to come to the temple and then serve Krishna there. That's why Krishna says, well, whatever you do, not just you cook for me or you clean for me or you do this and that. Krishna says whatever you do means everything you do it, you do it as an offering to me. And interestingly, we are always doing it for somebody. When we are cooking for somebody. When we are buying groceries, we are buying groceries for somebody. In a way, my spouse will cook, I like this, so she will cook this, so there is, or my kids will eat. There is always somebody else. Even when we are cleaning that it will give pleasure to the spouse and children. So in cleaning also we are doing for somebody. When we are working, we are trying to impress our senior, our managers, or we are trying to impress somebody. So the fact is that our natural tendency is to do everything for somebody else. Instead, when we do something for ourselves, we are not so enthusiastic. When we are doing it for others, we are much more enthusiastic. Like if I have to cook for myself, then I will be happy just cooking some puffed rice or something very simple, um, and or make some juice, and I'll be happy with that. But then if I'm cooking for Krishna, then oh, I should make some gulab jamuns, I should make some pakoras, some puris and some sabji. And then even after making for Krishna, I may not eat it because I may not be healthy enough to eat those food stuff, but I must cook for Krishna because Krishna will enjoy. Now, um, for us, cook whatever you can eat, but it's just a matter of when we do it for Krishna. In our conditioned state, when we do for others, we are very enthusiastic. Likewise, if you try to serve Krishna, you will see your life improves very nicely because you cook very healthy, you cook very nice, you will not be lazy, you will keep the home clean, you will keep the altar clean, you will get everything on time, and overall the life increases, the laziness will go away, and you will be very enthusiastic to do it also. Just like a mother is very enthusiastic to cook for kids, but when the kids are not there and the husband is not there, and if she has to cook for herself, she is not at all enthusiastic to cook. So likewise, when you do something for Krishna, you live life because Krishna's servant. As Krishna's servant, you will live life. You know, Krishna is supreme personality of Godhead. So your life will also be very auspicious if you just do everything for the pleasure of Krishna. Um, um, and our Krishna consciousness is actually the main ingredient is faith. Um, 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 we invest faith to grow our faith. Like there is a saying, you take a step towards Krishna and Krishna will take many many steps towards you. So that step toward Krishna is I have faith, and you invest that faith, Krishna will reciprocate, and your faith in Krishna will grow. Like we all invested some faith, and then we attended Bhagavad Gita discussions. Somewhere or the other, in some corner of the life, even maybe a tiny bit, we are all getting advantaged by the words of Gita. Otherwise, we won't come regularly to discuss Gita. Somewhere there is some advantage. So, this is Krishna's reciprocation because we are not discussing a mundane subject matter, we are discussing Krishna's words here. So we invest a little bit faith in Krishna and we have some reciprocation. Likewise, you cook for Krishna and see how you feels. You chant Krishna's names and see how you feel. You serve the deity of Krishna or serve the picture of Krishna. You do something little for Krishna and see how it feels. The reciprocation will come. How the reciprocation will come? It will come in form of divinity. Your in your heart, you will feel that love. Love is reciprocal. When you do something out of love for Krishna, first thing you will feel in your heart is a divine peace. It's not a mundane peace. Mundane peace is no anxiety, like, oh, I have no problem now, so I am very peaceful. That is mundane peace. Divine peace is, you are very peaceful, but it's not just lack of anxiety, it's a divine pleasure that you feel in your heart, in your head, in yourself. You feel some divinity. That is spiritual energy. When we engage in Krishna consciousness, we experience Krishna's energy, Krishna's potency. um, um, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, uh, Mahatmanas tu mam partha daivim prakritim ashrita. Daivim prakritim. Prakriti is energy. Daivim prakriti is spiritual energy. So the Mahatmas or the great souls are always under his divine energy. Why? Because Satatam Gitiyantomam. The next verse after that it says, because they are chanting my glories and they are always engaged in devotional service, so they are under divine energy. So when we are cooking for Krishna, cleaning Krishna's pots, doing Shavanam Kirtanam, whatever we are doing, we are under Krishna's divine energy. And this divinity is actually love. It is actually reciprocal love. When you do something and Krishna is pleased, then Krishna reciprocate when he is happy by giving you a divine experience. And you do it more, and Krishna will give you more divine experience. And by service, the reciprocal love becomes more and more stronger. Just like I always give this example, especially in arranged marriage, when husband wife get married, they both try to serve each other. And because they are serving each other, like husband buys some jewelry for the wife, and the wife becomes very happy and she cooks what husband likes. And then husband is very happy with the wife and he does what she likes and she does what he likes, and that way the relationship becomes stronger. Likewise, the relationship with Krishna. Scriptures explain that we always have our relationship with Krishna, the relationship of intimate love, but we have forgotten it because of the covering of material energy. We have forgotten Krishna. But just like a child who, by little practice, can start walking, although he doesn't know how to walk in the beginning, by little practice, he can walk because the ability to walk is there. It's not something new to him, but he just trains himself. Likewise, like Prabhupada said, we just have to um, push ourselves little bit to serve Krishna, and Krishna will reciprocate. And then you serve more, and he will reciprocate more. And when we do something wrong, Krishna doesn't reciprocate. Just like when husband does something wrong that wife doesn't like, she becomes upset at him. So likewise, when we do something which is detrimental for our devotional service, Krishna becomes upset at us. And then we realize, oh, Krishna is unhappy with me. Then we realize why Krishna is unhappy with me, so we don't want to do what Krishna doesn't like, and then we do more what Krishna likes. So slowly, just like any other relationship, we are working on our relationship with Krishna. And the more we work in that, in a practical way, deepening our relationship with Krishna, um, the relationship becomes stronger. And um, um, and our life also becomes divine. So Krishna says, whatever you do it for me. We always are doing something to impress somebody. So try to do to impress Krishna. Try to, whatever you do, people eat something, cook it for Krishna. People give away something, somehow or other keep it centered around Krishna conscious activity. People perform austerities, somehow or other do austerities, those kind of austerities which are pleasing to Krishna, like not eating grains on Ekadashi, um, not eating food stuff like flesh which Krishna does not like, um, 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 fasting on Krishna's Janmashtami and other days. So you keep the austerity centered around Krishna. In fact, there is no need of any other external austerities. We are performing austerity either to please some demigod or to do something. Sometimes we perform austerity to please the politicians, or to have some effect. Sometimes people become angry with their spouse and they fast, and they want to impress on the other that I'm fasting, to punish the other person. So we are always doing for some purpose. Krishna says, well, there is no use of in doing all those austerity. Rather, since there is a tendency to do austerity, do it for my pleasure. So do everything for Krishna's pleasure. And Krishna says, if you do that, then you will become liberated. Then liberation means divine love. We Liberation is very sweet. Sometimes I personally don't very much like the word liberation, because the word liberation is like that, but the loving relationship with Krishna is very sweet. The divinity that we experience is very sweet. And actually we are all looking for happiness, but we are looking in the wrong place. And when we become Krishna conscious, when we center our activities around Krishna, then we finally come to the kind of end of our search. Throughout our journey in this material world, we are looking for some satisfaction by going to the beach, by going to the movies, by going to restaurants, by enjoying different materialistic pleasure, by accumulating more wealth, by getting more houses, by getting more cars, by getting our children come first in the class, by this and this and that and this and that and this and that. These are endless material activities that reaps no benefit, no spiritual benefit. It's just part of karma. Um, 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 so we must do it. We must try to do things for the pleasure of Krishna. I lost track of what I was saying. Anyways, let's go ahead. Um, and then Krishna says, this is the last verse we discussed last week. I envy no one. And Krishna says, no one is my favorite, and I am not envious of anyone, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. Krishna says, don't think I am partial to you, Arjuna, because Krishna is talking to Arjuna. He's a charioteer of Arjuna, and Krishna is telling Arjuna that don't think I am envious of Duryodhana or others. I envy no one. Um, if Krishna was envious, then those who are atheistic, who kind of blaspheme Krishna, there are so many people, they love blaspheming Krishna. Um, um, and when they desire, nothing can happen till the Lord sanctions. Krishna says, Sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishto. Hridhi, heart. Sarvasya chaham, all living entities. Hridhi sannivishto. I am situated in the heart of every living entity. Anything, like when a living entity desires something based on karma, the Lord sanctioned. We saw the three doers in the fifth chapter. So the jiva only desires, the Lord sanctions, and the material nature provides. But the jiva only desires. Nothing else is in our hand. So an atheist who hates Krishna, who blasphemes Krishna, if he wants more wealth and more car and more this and more that, Krishna gives him that. So if Krishna was an envious person, then usually what happens, if we don't like somebody, then if we are envious by nature, then we want them to be destroyed. We want them to suffer. Why? Because they did not deal very nicely with me. Krishna is not like that. That's because we envy them. Why? Because of false ego. Because I am hurt, so I want you to suffer because I was hurt because of you. Krishna is not like that. Krishna is neutral to anyone. It's just a matter of desire. You want money, Krishna will give you money. You want home, Krishna will give you a home. You want cars, whatever you want, Krishna will give you that, if your karma allows. And if you want Krishna, Krishna will give you himself. If you want bhakti, Krishna will give you bhakti. So if somebody is getting bhakti and others are not, it's not Krishna's problem, it's our problem. We are not desiring, or based on our sin, our desire is expressed by our activities. Like people say that I always love Krishna, I always remember Krishna, but words are cheap. Krishna says, don't tell me what feelings you have for me, show me how you are expressing it. Love is expressed through service. If wife says to the husband, I love you so much, okay, can you cook for me? No, I cannot cook for you, but I love you so much. Can you do something? Can you clean the house? I cannot clean the house, but I love you so much. So that love is purposeless. Rather, a person may not speak anything but selflessly serves. That's a deeper expression of love. So we express our love to Krishna through our eagerness to serve Krishna. How much eager we are to serve Krishna, that's a sign of that much gratitude we have. That's a sign of that much faith we have. Based on our faith and our love, to that extent, we want to extend ourselves. And amount of faith we have, that much advanced we are. In fact, uh, um, Kanishta Madhyama Uttama Shraddha Anusari. Whether one is a beginner in Krishna consciousness or an advanced in Krishna consciousness is based on faith. And faith is expressed through what am I doing? How much I am eager to follow the core principles of Krishna consciousness and based on our desire. So Krishna fulfills everyone's desires impartially. Some desire opulence, some desire Krishna. Like Duryodhan and Krishna, they both came to Krishna. Krishna asked Duryodhan, Krishna said, this is a picture of Duryodhan and Krishna. They came to Dwarka. They happened to reach almost simultaneously. This story in short, um, Krishna asked Duryodhan, Krishna said, either I will fight without any weapons and I'll become a chariot driver, or I have an army of one Akshohini. One Akshohini is like 65,000 elephants, 108,000 horses, and three, 400,000 military men. So one Akshohini is a huge army. In fact, the total army strength of Mahabharat war was around 18 Akshohini. So one complete Akshohini was just Krishna's army. So Krishna has a huge army. So Duryodhan said, "Well, I don't want you. You will be and without weapon anyways. I want your army." And Arjuna said, "I don't care about your army. I want you." So Duryodhan got Krishna's army. Arjuna got Krishna. But naturally, victory follows Krishna because Krishna is supreme personality of Godhead and the husband of goddess of fortune. So fortune follows where Krishna is. So Krishna was not partial to Arjuna or Duryodhan also based on desire. What do you want? So Krishna says, Samoham sarva bhuteshu na me asti same na priya. I am not envious to anyone. I am not partial to anyone. I am equal to all. You want devotion to me, I will come running to you. But if you want some material opulence, I'll give you that, but I will not come to you. But that will give you material anxiety. But I will give you that divine pleasure. Okay. Um, अपि चेत्सु दुराचारो भजते माम अनन्य भाग साधुरेव समन्तव्या सम्यग् व्यवसितो हि सा. Api chetsu duracharo. This is the purifying effect of devotional service. Uh, Api chetsu durachar. Achar means to set a perfect example. Durachar means you perform an abominable act. Sudurachar is extremely abominable, something that should never be done. Api chesu duracharo, even if one commits a sudurachar, a extremely abominable activity, ghatiya kam, ugra karma, even if one performs that kind of activity, bhajate mam ananya bhak. Ananya. Ananya means Anya means something else. Ananya means exclusive devotion. Bhajate mam ananya bhak. If one is fixed exclusively in his devotional service to Krishna, sadhur eva samantavya. Mantavya is to consider. I consider him sadhu. Sadhu means saintly. Samyak vivasito hisa, because he is properly fixed in his determination to render devotional service unto me. The summary is, there is no need of any atonement if by mistake, not willingly, by mistake, uh, you commit an abominable activity. This is uh, the purifying effect of devotional service, and it is also um, like, even if one commits a most abominable activity, if one is engaged in devotional service, there is no need to atone for your abominable activity. Instead, if you just continue devotional service, because the devotional service is so pure, all your sinful reactions will be nullified. Sometimes people come and they say, "We, I have done something which is not right. How can I atone for my sins?" And then I show them this verse and say, Krishna says there is no need of atonement. Just keep performing devotional service. And Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, Maya is very strong. Maya, or the illusory energies, and we have anarthas. So Maya triggers our anarthas. Sometime lust will attack, sometime anger will attack, sometime envy will attack, and sometime we may act in a way we should not act. It may happen because of the powerful effect of material energy. But Krishna says, don't worry. Even if you make mistakes, there is no fall down in a way, because I still consider you saintly. Krishna says, even if one commits most abominable act, I still consider him saintly. Why? Because he's engaged in my devotional service. That leaves no hope, no space for us to find fault in devotees. Because if a devotee does something wrong, Krishna says, I consider him saintly. Then what rights we have to find fault in that person and say that person is unsaintly? In fact, when we find fault in devotees, um, um, we lose our own devotion. This is one of the very important teachings of Bhagavad Gita. At many, many places, Krishna brings that point. Now, the reason I am sharing here itself, our devotion right now is in a beginning phase. We don't want to lose our devotion. Um, but if we criticize a devotee, then Krishna will not be happy with us. The reason we are able to continue in our Krishna consciousness is because Krishna is reciprocating with us. That's the nature of love. Um, but if Krishna, most of the time, people loses interest in Krishna consciousness because they don't feel anything. They don't receive any reciprocation. Usually that happens when they find fault in devotees. Usually. So my request is, be very careful. I know one family, I know many, many cases. One family would, the wife would chant 16 rounds. She developed lot of faith, but then she got picked up some quarrel or something happened somewhere outside Michigan, and then Krishna withdrew his mercy from her, and she stopped chanting. She stopped feeling anything. What happens is, initially we are very enthusiastic because Krishna is reciprocating, but then when um, Krishna is displeased with us, then devotional service is no more joyful. So our devotional service is compared to a small twig. We have to be very careful to protect that small twig. We water the twig. Twig is like a small sapling, a small plant. A small plant is very, very weak. You do like and the plant will break. So once we are very strong in devotion, even if we make mistakes, because we are so strong, we can survive the storm. But if we are very new and sapling, then we make a small mistake, and it kinds of um, um, we just go away. Just like, for example, um, there are um, um, you know um, especially summer in India. It's very hot, so the small saplings, they die because they cannot tolerate the heat of the sun. But the big plants, they are unaffected, they stay like they are not affected much. Likewise, um, we must likewise a small mistake also, especially in the beginning stages, can actually um, 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 hamper our growth. Two things we should avoid. One thing we should avoid is we should avoid bad association. Bad association is that you tell somebody about Krishna consciousness and they say, "Oh, you got trapped. What are you guys doing? Is this the age to read Bhagavad Gita? Bhagavad Gita should be read at the age of 80, 85. If you die before, that's all right. But Bhagavad Gita is bent, and ISKCON temple, they worship only Krishna. We have to worship so many demigods also. Um, and this happened, that happened, this story, that story. So they are like bad association. So because they are envious by nature, what does envy means? They don't like Krishna. That's envy for Krishna. Krishna says, Arjuna, because you're not envious of me, uh, you can understand the science of Bhagavad Gita. Those who are envious of Krishna, they cannot tolerate Krishna. Anything related to Krishna, they have a criticizing mentality. So keep your devotion hidden within you. Keep your faith hidden within you, and water your bhakti through hearing and chanting. Reading gives lot of faith. Read Bhagavad Gita, and try to chant some rounds. If you are chanting, you can try to increase. Um, um, my personal experience, um, my nourishment comes from reading and chanting both. Um, I chant a certain number of rounds, and I read every day for some time. And those activities, kind of, I look forward for those two activities because they give me nourishment. If one day I miss any of these two activities, I feel vacancy in my heart. When I am vacant in my heart, when I don't have anything, I cannot be an instrument to give anything to anyone. So, first, what we have to do, before we go out to others and share our faith to others, first we have to strengthen ourselves. So, the Shravanam and Kirtanam, hearing about Krishna and chanting Krishna's name, will nourish your heart, and let it nourish more and more and more and more and more. Your faith will gradually grow more and more. Um, and this is first thing, avoid bad association. I have my own stories where one time, one person, I was in the college, I was doing my masters, I was chanting certain number of rounds, and one person came to me and he said, you have gone mad by going to temples. And then I was so foolish that I believed him. And then I thought, oh yeah, I think I have gone mad. And then he said, then I asked him this question, is everybody who goes to temple is a mad person? And then he said, yeah, I think so. I think everyone is a mad. Then I believed him because of bad association. And then I stopped going to temple. But Krishna's mercy, I was again pulled in back by Lord within my heart. And then now I realize that how harmful is bad association. So this is one thing. Another thing is, do not criticize devotees. I know one family, they both would chant 8 rounds. They attended Bhagavad Gita discussion for 1 year, and they have developed lot of faith. They had lot of reciprocation from Krishna also. But then um, the husband, he started criticizing some of the devotees in the temple. like this devotee I don't like, that devotee I don't like, this. And then what happened, he didn't realize, because they were not trained properly in the art of Krishna consciousness. So he would chant 8 rounds, but he stopped feeling anything in his chanting, and he felt emptiness in his chanting. And he did not reveal to anyone, he did not share with anyone, but slowly he developed such kind of emptiness in his heart that he gave it up. And then it became very difficult for him to develop faith again. So, like a case of a broken faith. So we have to be very careful, especially beginning stages. As we are growing in our devotion, we should try our best to engage in hearing and chanting and increase our faith as Krishna is reciprocating his mercy on us. Do more and more. Try to serve Krishna more and more and protect your devotion. If at all you pass through this initial phase and maintain your faith, your life will become extremely glorious. Throughout your life, you will have tears of gratitude in your eyes. What was my qualification that I received this mercy? So, all you need to receive your mercy is do as Krishna says. Try your best and see what happens. And any material sinful activity we perform, Krishna says, don't worry about it. Sometimes we are weak, our senses are not very strong, and we may engage in sense gratification. Don't worry about it. Sense gratification will not take away your bhakti, but criticizing devotees and bad association is way more detrimental at this point of time. And then Krishna says,
Prabhuji, what's the meaning of mantavya?
uh, Mantavya means he considers. Sadhur eva sa mantavya means Krishna considers him a sadhu, even if he commits sinful acts.
And there's another word called gantavya.
What does that mean?
Gantavya, I don't know. Gantavya, there's another word called gantavya.
Well, I don't know, Prabhu.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Sorry. Okay, okay. Thank you, Girish Prabhu. All right. So, uh, does anyone else has any question at this point of time? Is it making sense? Was everything clear?
Prabhuji Jai Shakti here. I have
Uh,
one question.
yes.
So when I practice Krishna consciousness, I'm able to feel like when I do some physical activities like cooking or household work, it is easy. But when I do mental activities like office work, I just get lost in the work and get frustrated or getting angry. Then I realize, okay, I'm not in Krishna consciousness. uh, is that it is natural to bring Krishna consciousness for doing some mental activity is difficult than for a physical activity?
Well, um, if you practice chanting, which is actually a mental activity, it will increase your focus and concentration tremendously. Like what happens, our mind, uh, um, it's usually easier to engage in physical activity than in mental activity. It's natural. Um, I'll give you my experience. If you chant the holy names, then maybe if you chant the holy names for half an hour, then for half an hour, you try to fix your mind. It's a meditation. You try to
Hmm.
fix your mind onto the form of Krishna, or best is onto the words that you are saying. Prabhupada said there is no need to um, contemplate or imagine anything. You just try to hear the words like Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So that's why we call it mantra meditation, because the meditation is on the mantra itself. There are many kinds of meditation. Um, Meditation improves our mental strength. So my experience, when you do that, initially the mind may kind of go here and there, because mind, Krishna says, is chanchal by nature, runs here and there. But then that's a little difficult task. That's why devotees are, I mean, especially people who are new, they are not very eager to do it because um, um, it strains the mind. But then at the same time, Krishna says mind is our enemy. Krishna says mind is our enemy, mind is our friend. Mind, when trained, becomes our friend. When the mind is trained, then you can make the mind do whatever you like. Many times when the mind is untrained, even if you have some office work, the mind will not want to focus. Mind may want to go to um, um, checking Gmail and Facebook, and may be distracted to many other places. And um, um, but if your mind is within your control, then you can do with the mind whatever you want. Most of the time, like yesterday, I was talking to one family, um, and this Prabhu was mentioning he is in deep anxiety. It was a very small thing, but the mind presents a very small thing in such a big way, because mind doesn't want pressure. Mind wants, like, it's not controlled. It's not controlled. But this one activity in a day that you do for, maybe to begin with, 15-20 minutes or half an hour, and that, if your mind becomes focused there, then you will see your mind will kind of start becoming your friend, and then you will be able to use the mind at your will. Jai Shakti Mataji, did it make sense? Was your question answered, or you have something else that I didn't understand?
Yes, Prabhuji, that helps. I will practice chanting. I realize that I'm getting lost. I'm whenever I get angry or frustrated in the work, I realize it. Then I bring the Krishna consciousness.
Hmm.
So I'll practice the chanting, Prabhuji. That would help.
Try that.
Prabhuji, I have another question. Like when as it came to meditation, I heard from a person which they practice different kind of meditation.
Hmm.
In there, they say, as we all know, that the supreme soul is within us, right?
Yes,
So to
Paramatma.
connect, yeah, Paramatma, to connect with him, they do meditation. That's called Sahaj Marg.
Hmm.
So what he said is the first stage, the preliminary stage is um, the performing of deity worship. So,
Hmm.
and the second stage is where we sit and meditate on idols, like assuming like how Krishna will be, and meditating on Krishna or any
Oh.
god for the sake. And the third stage is connecting with the Lord who is within us. So what he said is that is the final stage that we need to attain. So how is this? How we are making it different? Like, so I'm kind of I mean both what we
Confused.
were doing is same, but in a bit different way.
Hmm. Okay. Well, Mataji, thank you for the question and thank you for sharing your heart. Um, in our, from what I have read, um, there is a conversation between Brahma and Narad Muni. This is a Upanishad called Kali Santran Upanishad, and there, Narad Muni asked Brahma that Kali Yuga is coming, and the mind will be untrained. People are short-tempered. People are quarrelsome. People are hypocritical. People are distracted. The life is very short. Um, Manda, people are less intelligent. How will people be able to understand and make spiritual progress and realize their spiritual identities? And Brahma said, by chanting the names of the Lord. And Narad Muni said, there are so many names of the Lord. Which names should one practice. And then Brahma says, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Iti Sodakshanam Nam Nam Kali Kalmashu Nashanam. Nata Parantara Payo Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. So Brahma says, Iti Sodakshanam Nam Nam. Sodakshanam means 16. Iti Sodakshanam, these 16 names of the Lord. Kali Kalmashu Nashanam. Kali, the effect of Kali, Kalmashu, the bad effect or ill effects of Kali Nashanam, they'll be destroyed. What are these ill effects of Kali? What are these Kali Kalmashu? Manda Sumanda Matayo Manda Bhagya Vipadeta. People are always disturbed. Manda, less intelligent. Alpa Ayeshu, they are short lived, and they are unfortunate. Manda Bhagya. So quarrel and hypocrisy are the Kalmashu of Kali Yuga. So Kali Kalmashu Nashanam. They all will be destroyed. Matta Parantara Payo Sarve Vedeshu Drishyate. Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. So if you go through all the Vedas, Sarva Vedeshu, Drishyate means observe, look into all the Vedas, Natta Parantarapayo. You will not find a better means. Now, deity worship is Pancharatrik Vidhi, and chanting the names of the Lord is Bhagavad Vidhi. So Narad Muni also wrote a book called Narada Pancharatrika, which is one of the book that we also read. It is this the deity worship process is described. Narad Muni describes there that the path of Bhagavad Vidhi and the path of Pancharatrik Vidhi should go in parallel. And he Narad Muni explains, just like the two the two lines of a railway track, if they go in parallel, then the train will go very smoothly. But if there is slight deviation between the two tracks, then it may not it may not be seen right away, but eventually there will be an accident. So two lines of a railway track is compared to Bhagavad Vidhi and Pancharatrik Vidhi. That's why Srila Prabhupada introduced deity worship and the Nam Sankirtan or mantra meditation simultaneously. And we have seen my experience, Mataji. Now, one aspect is scriptures. Okay, now I'm quoting the authority of scriptures just to show that, okay, it's not a concoction. It's not somebody thought like that and then it has been propagated, but it's coming from Shastras. Now, my experience, if you chant the holy names, it will become very, very easy for you to meditate on the form of the Lord and fix the mind on the Lord. It will become like natural. And I'm a temple resident. I do deity worship every single day. Sometimes my deity worship is also like 7 to 8 hours of deity worship. Sometimes I do. My experience, um, uh, um, deity worship gives me uh, pleasure only when my chanting is good. My experience, they support each other. They are not like two different corners. They are like parallel track that I was trying to explain. If if we kind of if we don't have good chanting, and if we do deity worship, then deity worship will become like a ritual, and we will derive no satisfaction in deity worship. But if we are chanting, and then if we do deity worship, then in while doing deity worship, you will be in ecstasy. You will feel that divine love within your heart. So these two things are kind of inseparable. That's why in our culture, devotees do deity worship, devotees meditate on the Lord, but that the way in which they meditate on the Lord is through the process of chanting. So everything is like kind of supported by chanting. Even when deity worship is going on, kirtan is going on in the background. So chanting is kind of accompanies even when there is pot washing going on, even when any service is going on, some or other form of chanting is like kind of recommended in the background, and these two paths will make you really feel the inner fulfillment that we are hankering for. Now, the only person who gets benefit, now first thing is, now for example, Shrimad Bhagavatam says, Kale dosha nidhe raja. Kali Yuga, nidhe is ocean, dosha is faults. Kale dosha nidhe raja. Kali Yuga is full of faults, like I discussed, manda sumanda matya manda bhagya badita, and many faults are described. Kale dosha nidhe raja, asti hi ek mahaguna. Yet there is one great quality, ek mahaguna. Kirtana Deva Krishnasya. Kirtan of Krishna. Mukta Sangha Param Vrajit. Mukta, it will give you liberation. That sweetness of love that I am describing as liberation. Mukta Sangha Param Vrajit. Now, there are many verses and devotees who put faith in scriptures and then they practice, and after, and then they perform deity worship also. Most of the devotees who are chanting, they perform deity worship also. They have some small altar in their in their homes. And what I have seen, if you perform nice deity worship, like maybe a arti and offering, which Krishna already recommends, whatever you do it as an offering to me. While chanting, the form that you are worshipping, they will appear in front of you, and you will be surprised, Mataji. Sometimes devotees chant for 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, and for 6 hours, 8 hours, they are able to meditate on the form of the Lord within themselves, especially the deities that they are worshipping. But you will see people who are practicing without chanting, even they try to meditate within 15 minutes or 20 minutes, maximum half an hour, they will feel this is too much. And that itself is a proof of a practical demonstration of scriptures, that why scriptures are mentioning. Now, meditation just by itself without chanting is a bona fide process, but it is recommended for Satya Yuga, because in Satya Yuga the minds were in goodness, like Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Kali Yuga. So Satya Yuga, it is described dhyayato uh, uh, tre, Tretayam yujato mukhaye Dwapare paricharyayam Kalo tadhari kirtanat. Um, the first line, I'm forgetting the Sanskrit, but it says Satya Yuga is dhyan, silent meditation. Then Treta Yam Yajato Mukha. In Treta Yuga, you perform um, um, sacrifices. Dwapare Paricharyayam. In Dwapar Yuga, perform deity worship. Kalau Tad Hari Kirtan. In Kali Yuga, perform Hari Kirtan. So in Satya Yuga, the mind is very stable. People are in mode of full goodness. So for many times, for years, people can sit and meditate on the Lord in their heart. Why? Because the mind is so stable. But in Kali Yuga, the mind is so distracted. My experience, if I sit and even though chant within my mind, not loudly, and meditate on the Lord just skips away like anything, because the minds in this Kali Yuga is very distracted. But through the process of Hari Kirtan, um, um, one is able to focus on and reach the goal as you are defining in a very easy way. So because wherever you have heard it from, it is a right thing. The goal is right. Meditate on the Lord. Deity worship is right. Meditation on the deity of the form is right. Everything you mention is perfect. It's just the way and means for specifically for Kali Yuga is as scriptures describe, we try to follow. Now, Shilata Mataji, did
Yeah.
it throw some light on it?
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, I got you. Like, when they are saying, like, I can see by myself, like, meditating on just I mean, having a thought that there is a Paramatma in form of light in heart, and meditate on that is very difficult. I myself
Mm,
and they say it's initially it's very difficult, but going on, yeah, there are I see people in that path practicing since 20 years, 30 years. There are people in that path as well,
mm,
but
mm,
I find it difficult too.
mm,
uh,
mm.
yeah. uh,
Well, you
um,
can make some progress because the Lord is all pure, and meditating on the Lord or the deity of the form in our heart is still purifying. So there is nothing wrong in doing that, but then the recommended process is like a kind of the best means to, like, you can write a program, you can write in many different ways, but then you can also write the program in a very efficient simple way and still does the work, kind of.
yeah, yeah, and another thing you mentioned during the initial stage of the consciousness, we should be very careful in finding faults in devotees or any other people. Like, let's say I have the habit of fault finding in others. Let's say, so I started doing the Krishna consciousness. It will not go just like that, right?
Yeah.
So how to help? I mean, to me, like, how can I help myself?
Mm. Well, thank you. It's a one of the best questions. Um, mm, and thank you for being honest. We all have that tendency. Um, mm, when we are aware of the negative effects that it will produce to us, then we become very fearful of that activity because we know what is going to happen if I do that. How I have learned in my life is my mind would find fault. Sometime I would say something here and there, and then the next day I would see that I had lot of difficulty in focusing on my chanting. Then slowly I came to realize Krishna says that, scripture says that, but then many times the experience is the best teacher. Now what happens, the benefit of chanting will train you to and make you a perfect devotee. How? Because when we chant we experience a supreme divinity that nourishes our heart and we are like enlivened. But then when chanting does not go good, then we see what went wrong, and we feel very empty in our heart, and then we hanker for the divine experience because we feel like without that divine experience my heart is completely empty, and I feel miserable. My whole day is miserable. So then we realize that actually I'm dependent on chanting. Now we do whatever it takes to keep our chanting good and divine, because it becomes like a need for us, a necessity for us, because the nature of the soul is pleasure seeker. And then when we see, well, this is hampering my chanting, and we get lot of misery because chanting is not good, um, then we start thinking, well, either I can find fault in devotee, but then I will suffer. So rather, let me not do that. And it is not only with this tendency of fault finding, but all different tendencies. So it's like we have many negative emotions, and how when we start chanting, we kind of know the effect of our behavior with respect to chanting. And because chanting becomes a need for us, we consciously start working on everything because we don't want to suffer. So sometime our own experience will push us to become purified. um, um, did I address in some form? Were you
Yes, yes,
satisfied?
yes, Prabhuji. Yes. Yeah. Maybe I need to have that coordination with life and in the chanting that way.
Yeah. My experience, any new habit, to form a new habit is very difficult. So the natural tendency is, I will start. I know it's important. Soon I will start. Soon I will start, because to take time out, it's kind of, because it's not habituated. When we get up in the morning, we kind of have a set schedule of how I'm going to live the day, and we kind of repeat our schedule from previous day, and then we end up in finding no time for it. So forming new habits, it's little difficult, but if it's a good habit, it's worth taking the pain, especially if you know that this little pain that I take now will give me um, great benefits throughout my life. Just like the school kids, they find it, they sleep at 3 a.m. and they get up at 10 a.m. and they find it very difficult to wake up early in the morning. But then slowly they start getting up, and then they become shocked that why I was like that before. I mean, good new habits, although it is difficult, that will help us to eliminate old bad habits. We all have bad habits. Bad habits die hard. In a way, it's very difficult to change ourselves. But the only way to get rid of our bad habit is by forming good habits. And my experience, this is the best good habit you can ever form in your life. And start small, at in your comfort zone. Gradually take steps. If it is something for your benefit, do it. If it is something which will hamper you, don't do it.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Shilata Mataji. Any other question? Okay. Well, it's 12:14. Uh, mm, okay, we have three slides. If you give me 3 4 minutes, let's finish this chapter. Um, so, um, even if one commit most abominable activity because he is engaged in devotional service, Krishna says, "I consider him saintly," and because he is engaged in devotional service, I quickly purify him. He quickly become righteous. His contamination goes away. Contaminations are there because of our past karma, because of our past habits. Some people have more lust, more envy, more pride, more anger, more greed. It's all based on our past karma. But because Krishna consciousness removes our bad karma, purifies us. So when we start Krishna consciousness, this hearing and chanting process, those things may still remain, but then they remain, their life is very short lived now, because we have already started cleaning our heart now. Just like if a person is very dirty, if he takes shower, if he's in the shower, we don't tell him he's dirty. Why? Because he's in the shower. We know once the shower is done, even if he has not taken bath for 10 years, and if he smells like a, like, I don't want to say like anything, if he's in the shower, very soon he will become, all his bad smell will go away. Likewise, our past bad habits of lust, anger, envy, greed, pride, they are like bad smell that are within us. But as soon as we start taking shower of Krishna consciousness, then it's called Sarvatma Snapanam. Snapanam means bathing. Now we are bathing our soul. Sarvatma Snapanam, Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. This Shri Krishna Sankirtan, this is like bathing of the soul. And Krishna says, so there is no need to find fault in that person, because he's already bathing. Now why to find fault in him? Very soon you wait for few years, and then you see the soul, and you will see the soul is shining with divine peace in his heart, and with all good qualities, and you will be shocked how the transformation happens. So Krishna says, that's why even if one commits an abominable activity, I consider him saintly. Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. You declare it boldly. Do not hesitate to declare, Arjuna. Do not hesitate to declare, Name bhakta pranashyati. My devotee will never perish. My devotee will never perish. This is Krishna's pride on his devotees. Name bhakta pranashyati. Why Krishna is telling you declare? Because sometime Krishna took a vow, I will not fight, and he broke his own promise. Sometime Krishna breaks his own promise, but Krishna never breaks the promise he has given to his devotees. Because he's bhakta vatsala. Means he loves his devotees so much. There is a strong loving exchange, loving relationship. This loving relationship between devotee and Krishna is what makes this chapter the most confidential knowledge. That's why this chapter is called most confidential knowledge, because of this section of glories of bhakti. Kontet prati janihi name bhakta pranashit. You declare it. So even if he commit most abominable activity, Arjuna, you declare he will not perish. Why? Because I am with him. When Krishna is with you, who in the world dare touch you? Why? Name bhakta pranashit. It's Krishna's promise. O son of Partha, those who have taken shelter in me, though be of lower birth, can attain supreme destination. What is lower birth? When we have lot of lusty desires, anger, greed, pride, ego, too much ego, this is lower birth. Why lower birth? Past karma was not good. That's why we are here. That's why we have certain habits of what we have. Those who take shelter in me, Krishna says, if you do this process of bhakti yoga, that's like taking shelter in Krishna. Even if doesn't matter what is your past, even if you are the most wretched, useless, um, 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 dangerous, abominable, filthy, horrible person, Krishna says, can attain the supreme destination. If you see, for Krishna to make you pure is nothing. Krishna can easily remove just like that. Uh, what Krishna is looking for is love from us. Uh, an expression of love is devotional service. He just want to develop that relationship. Why? Because Krishna loves us. Because we are his part and parcel. Just like the son may run away from the home and can do many abominable activities, father doesn't stop loving him. Although son doesn't care for the father. So we are like that son who ran away from Krishna's shelter. And we may not care for Krishna, but Krishna's love for us remain the same. And the moment the father cries for the son, but the son is so absorbed with the wife he ran away with that he doesn't care for the father. But the father and mother are still crying for the son. The moment son shows little signs to father and mother, I am suffering. The father and mother said, we are yours, everything that belongs to us is yours, and you don't have to worry, we are there. Even sometimes those wife or husband, whoever, may divorce him because it's external. But father and mother love is way more deeper, way more deeper. It's not based on sense gratification, it's based on service. Father and mother's love. So the Krishna is like that. Our original true father, his love for us is like, Kaunte prati janihi, name bhakta pranashyati. You just turn towards me and see what I can do to you. I will transform your life, all your difficulties. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo. I will remove all your sinful reactions. I will give you love of God. I will give you everything. You just turn your face and say, okay, Krishna, I want to come close to you. Please help me. And you will see a big smile on Krishna's face. That's all. Krishna is eagerly. Prabhupada says, uh, Krishna is more eager to develop a loving relationship with us than we are towards Krishna. But we have a free will. And Krishna does not force our free will. If we don't want Krishna, then your son runs away, what can you do? The son has to, you can persuade your son, and the son is just too engrossed in sense gratification, he's just not interested. For him you are a burden. Then what can you do? But the moment you look around and then you look, and Krishna is the most attractive person, the most caring person, the most lovable person. But unfortunately, we just have to experience, and Krishna opens his arms and he immediately brings us under divine pleasure. See, we may be doing so many nonsense things, but we hear Bhagavad Gita, we chant holy names, and we experience Krishna's love. It's costless. Why he's exposing so much love to us, even though our whole life is sinful? Because Krishna loves us. That's the sign. How much more this is so of the righteous brahmanas, devotees, saintly kings. Therefore, having come to this material, temporary material world, engage in loving service unto me. So Krishna says, when a low born person can attain supreme destination, what to talk about saintly people like all of you? Definitely you will attain supreme destination. When a person who is like a murderer, etc., 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 that kind of person, if they turn to me, I will give them supreme destination. What to speak of people who have little devotion? So therefore, if you are living in this temporary world, Krishna says, have you come to this temporary miserable world, engage in loving service unto me. Therefore, please turn towards me and engage in your loving service. And this is the last verse for today. Krishna says, this is the last light for today. Krishna says, man mana, always think of me. How to always think of me? Krishna says, yat karosi yad asnasi yad juhosi tadadiyat. Whatever you do it for me. And we discuss whether it is cooking, cleaning, whatever, do it for the pleasure of Krishna. So in that way, we can always think of him. Through service, we can always think of him. By connecting activities to Krishna, then Krishna says, Mad Bhakto, Bhava Mad Bhakto, you become my devotee. Krishna says that. Madhyaji, Madhyaji means you worship me. And then Namaskuru, you offer obeisances unto me. One time, one person came to me and he says, Krishna does not say anywhere that you worship me. I says, Prabhu, Krishna says that you worship me. He says, Krishna does not say anywhere that you become my devotee. I said, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Mad Bhakto, you become my devotee, you worship me. Why? Because this is Krishna's love for us. And Krishna told in the first verse, I am telling you this most confidential science because you are not envious of me. If you tell an envious person become a devotee of Krishna, he will run away. But if you tell a saintly person that why don't you become a devotee of Krishna, why don't you worship Krishna, they will say, all right, I will do that. But why should I do that? No, I am not saying. Krishna wants us to do that. We are his part and parcel. So Krishna says, you become my devotee, you offer obeisances unto me, and you always think of me. And then Krishna says, you will surely come to me, having absorbed yourself completely in me and taking my shelter. And Krishna says, I will give you all protection and you will surely come to me. Okay. Uh, well, that's all. Uh, I went 10 minutes extra. Please forgive me for that. Um, we will end here. Uh, Sorry and Danvat Pranam. Vanchakalpatarubhesha kripa sindhubhe evacha. पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. अनंत कोटि वैष्णवेंद्र की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. Thank you very much. धन्यवाद. प्रणाम. हरे कृष्ण. हरे कृष्ण.